Mr. Not So Prince Charming. This was actually one of the first few people that I dated after Adonis, when I first moved to Texas last year. Uh, Met him online on OkCupid. He, it seemed like he had all of his stuff together, as they always do at first. Really nice guy. We talked on the phone for a couple of weeks. Prior to that, we had, chatted online for a couple of weeks. So it was reaching about a month before we actually went on a date. Lots of talking. He planned a really good date. And, he asked me to be ready at a certain time. I got ready, and he was an hour late for the date. Once he actually got there, the date was great. The only thing that kind of disturbed me while we were driving in the car, he had an issue with keeping his eyes off of me, which is, that's flattering. But at the same time, there were more than enough times for me to be concerned with him going over into the other lane and almost hitting someone, like a few times. So we went out to a restaurant, ate, had some drinks, had great conversation, and then we went out to a park, talked some more. The date was over. He got a kiss, and that was it. We ended up talking a little bit, and then he wanted to go out to the beach the next day. And so I said, okay, that's cool. So then he tells me another time to be ready by. I get ready. This time he's 2 hours late for the date. So he's 2 hours late for the date. And, we still go out to the beach. We have a pretty decent time. And, over the course of a few weeks, we got a lot closer, but there were a couple of things that were very concerning to me. Like he expressed a lot of concern where he just wanted to date only me. He didn't want me dating anyone else. He actually preferred and suggested that I shut down my dating profile. He said some things about social media, and I was like, oh, okay, so you want me to add you on Facebook? He's just like, oh, no, I don't do Facebook. I'm not really that interested in Facebook. And so I was like, okay, well, do you have a Facebook anyways? He goes, no, I don't have Facebook. I was like, oh, okay, cool. No big deal. That's normal. If you don't have Facebook, that means you're not really interested on what's going on, with the social media stuff. So later that night, after the date and everything, I came back and I got on Facebook and I searched him. So I pulled up his profile. When I pulled up his profile, it said that he was in a relationship. And he had been in a relationship since August. By then, I believe it was like October. At that point, it was like October, early October at that point. And so when I asked him about it, he's like, oh, my sister set up the profile. I'll have to ask her for my password to get into the account. And I was like, that's kind of strange. So then, I started asking him more questions about his life and about his past and everything. He said he had only been married once and he had never been engaged. Scrolling through his profile again, which he had still yet to have added me on it. Because by then he told me to send him a friend request. And then he's like, I'll add you or I'll get her to add you. By this time, like a couple of weeks had gone by. Still no ad. But one thing I noticed, which it sounds so psychotic and it probably sounds a little crazy, but his friend count went up. I was like, you know what? It's really not that big of a deal, but I don't understand why he said he would do that and then don't. I was just like, okay, well, no biggie. Scrolling through the Facebook again, I go down and he had been engaged. And so when I asked him about it, he said, well, my children's mother forced me to do that on Facebook. So that's what happened with that. It's like, okay. So then he kept making promises for dates. He had at least 3 dates that he promised. And it wasn't that he didn't give me a heads up about it. He waited until past like maybe an hour, 2 hours, sometimes past the date time frame before even reaching out to me and saying, hey, sorry about that. It was just a lot of that happening. And he kept apologizing. He kept saying he'd do better. And then he wouldn't. So I eventually, he had this one shot. It was actually his suggestion. There was a concert out in the Woodlands, and he wanted to go to the concert. He said that he was going to get the tickets, and he had it was 2 or 3 weeks. So the week of the concert was that Saturday, like that Wednesday, he's like, I'm going to go online and get the tickets. So the tickets by then, they were like crazy expensive for even some of the not so great seats. And so he's like, well, yeah, the tickets are this much. And so I could have been a bitch and been like, yeah, get the tickets. Get the tickets. I don't care if they are, if it is going to cost you $700. Get the tickets. But I was just like, that's kind of ridiculous for tickets. $700 can do a lot more. And so then he was just like, oh, okay. And so that Saturday he was like, well, we're going to do something else. I said, okay, great. We can do something else. Saturday comes. I hit him up. I was like, hey, what are you up to? He's like, oh, I got my kids for the weekend. And I recall asking him like that Wednesday. I was like, or if you're going to have your kids this weekend, just let me know. I'll just plan something else. I'll just do something else. Or I'll just, sit around the house, stay home. He's like, no, I won't have my kids this weekend. And I was like, well, when did you get the kids? He was like, oh, I got the kids Friday night. I was like, well, why didn't you say anything to me? Why didn't you tell me anything? He's just like, oh. And then it was kind of like that. So he drops the kids off. I guess the kids, they did the exchange on Sunday. So around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, he calls me and asks me, did I want to go out and do something? And so I was like, no, I'm kind of tired. And so then after that, I didn't, he didn't text me. I didn't text him. He didn't call me. I didn't call him. This went on for probably about a month. And then he pops back up again. He pops back up again. It's like, you're on my mind. I miss you so much, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, okay. I was like, well, we could talk or whatever. He's like, well, yeah, let's go out and do something this Saturday. I didn't hear from him again for another, I would have to say maybe 3 months after that. So like sometime last month I heard from him again. Or no, it was January, mid-January. Heard from him again. So this time he popped up. And, he wanted another chance. He wanted this. And then he asked me out on a date. I went on a date with him. And I really liked him. Like, when I was around him, I had the little sparks and all that good stuff. This time I went out with him. There was no sparks. There was absolutely no sparks. I went on the date with him to see if there would be. And there just wasn't. And, he brought me home. And then he wanted to come upstairs. I told him no. Then he wanted to do something that following Friday. I said, okay, cool. What do you want to do? He's like, oh, I'll think of something. I'll let you know on Wednesday. So when Wednesday comes, he basically wanted to come to my house and watch a movie and stuff. And I didn't want him to. So I told him, no, well, when you're not so busy, you can hit me up. And, we can maybe plan something another time. So during the course of the relationship, whatever, found out he was living with his mother, had no intentions on moving out, and had 2 cars, and basically made enough where he could financially support himself and live in his own spot, but he just didn't want to. He's perfectly fine living in his mother's house and stuff. That was something that was just wasn't interested. He reached out a little bit before Valentine's Day. And was, same story, same line. I miss you. Let's try it again. Blah, blah, blah. So basically what I did was I told him, never contact me again. You're extremely inconsistent. And inconsistent at the end of the day is a decision. The decision that I'm making is to no longer, make myself available to you. I'm no longer interested in just being your popcorn girl. So I wish you the best of luck and whatever it is you're looking for, but it's definitely not me. Leave me alone. And so, he basically was like, okay, I understand. I get it. And that was that.